Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kwakadash. Double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of great mystery and rule well, and the Akim and the falcons of the earth, preaching the gospel from Meshach Yahushai in sincerity and truth and diligence of mind. This but Nash DC Camp, short lesson for the hopeful elect. Yeah, so we're still in that time, right? That Esau's always gonna be pushing his talking points as per this C19 drama, and you also have to know there's also a different aspect as per the uh, the DNA or the mRNA, whatever they want to look into, because for you to have a effective so-called vaccine, you have to have an understanding of the sequence of the organism or whatever, or the virus. So you just have to be aware, man, of what Esau does, man. Not just Esau, including the heathen too. All right, so they're gonna have to go to their labs and look at people's DNA on how to formulate a concoction. So it's just one of those elements of Esau's mindset, his so-called witchcraft. So you just have to be aware, man, because you don't want to be ignorant of Esau's nefarious devices. So I'm going to read a quick precept from the book of Psalms chapter 64. All right, Psalms chapter 64. I want to start from verse 5. It says, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares. Privily they say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. All right, so that's exactly what they indulge in. Seeking out what to do when it comes to DNA research, and that's how they create bioweapons. All right, they have to test it out on all these animals, and they have to test it out on humans too. All right, and that's one thing that media doesn't go in depth into concerning all this secret research that has been classified. All right, and experiments have been done on the American people. All right, so they rather they classify the chicken feed stuff, just like Zbigniew Brzezinski said. So the good stuff they keep it on the wraps. But the little stuff they just throw it out there and people start running wild on it. Okay, the one concerning the UFOs is good. But at the same time, the UFO don't need no disclosure. The Charles Law don't need no disclosure. All right, they're already making themselves known, and the scriptures already talk about that. All right, the Holy Scriptures, all right, the Bible. So the man of the Lord know what's going on. So let me play this video real quick, and they have a better understanding as per what the drama is concerning all this DNA and mRNA stuff.
America's long-term care centers are working hard to protect our vulnerable seniors.
Our nursing homes and long-term care facilities are doing everything they can to keep our residents safe.
GI would, quote, provide technical expertise, sequencers, and even make additional donations.
Yeah, so the sequencers are basically machines that are being used to sequence people's DNA. Because you know how it is. Just like when they do a paternity test, that's exactly what they do. You have to use a machine to do a comparison of the child's DNA against the father's. Even the mothers also, paternal testing and maternal testing and all that stuff. Even your so-called crime labs, that work with all these police departments and FBI, they all have access to sequencing machines to do forensic analysis.
It seemed like an offer the state couldn't refuse, especially given the desperate need. But officials were suspicious about BGI and its connections to the Chinese government.
They are the ultimate company that shows connectivity to both the communist state as well as the military apparatus.
Bill Evanina recently stepped down as the top counterintelligence official in the U.S.
And it's not a big, stink as much as it's making it to be, because United States has the same capabilities, all right? Because just like you have the researcher that was talking about the VMAT2 gene, how did they get the gene? How did they get the information about the gene? He had to run it through a sequencing machine, and those sequencing machines, they have different types of connectability. You could connect it to your cell phone, a USB hard drive, a regular, hard drive, or you could just connect it to a network, and the networks could be penetrated, by any entity. That's why you have the black market that sell information. And what if, whatever information flows over the network, whether it's a Wi-Fi network or whether it's a regular hardline, all that information can be copied. All right, so there's no, big secret there, but it's just that, hey, they gotta create a boogeyman.
A veteran of both the FBI and CIA. He was so concerned by BGI's COVID testing proposals and who would ultimately get the data.
And that's one thing you also have to remember. You also have WHO labs, you have CDC labs, and you have other types of, private labs, that are owned by different corporations. They are spread out throughout the world, and they share information. They send, DNA sequences over the network. So you can imagine who has access to it. Send something from Africa to Europe to China, and to Mongolia to Russia. Everyone's looking at the same DNA, and that same information can also be available to regular high school student, you know, that's having an internship in a lab, and it's hilarious, man. How used to always like to point the finger at other so-called entities, but you have to also understand, man. When you talk about globalization, this is what you get. This is what you get. So this is exactly how the elites have planned it out. When you sign a so-called WTO, agreement and all that stuff, free trade and all that stuff, this is what happens. You got to share information. You got to do business with people you don't like, and their intentions, it's just something you just concerned about. But for the man of the Lord, it doesn't really worry us because the Lord got us.
He authorized a rare public warning. Quote, foreign powers can collect, store, and exploit biometric information from COVID tests.
We put out.
Yeah, so all this information you get from hospitals, all these private labs, all that information can be taken, just like you have your so-called Quest Diagnostics and all those other small scale labs that have contracts, to do COVID testing and all that stuff. They also do your blood work, so you can imagine all that information, being hacked. And and the funny thing, you also have to realize that the major problem with your information is basically the equipment that's being used, to sequence it, and the computers too. So when the manufacturer makes an equipment that can be connected to from a remote location, it means that it was done intentionally so that network, can be connected to a device that's easily penetrable, you know. So that's how it is, man. And all that update of software patches doesn't really do nothing. It's basically the equipment, the way it's designed. Because when you take a class in computer organization or computer architecture, it tells you, it shows you, you know, what's going on, and then you have to deal with different add-ons like your network interface cards and all that stuff. And your computer has different ports. All right. So when you take a class in computer science and then statistics and everything else on networking, you understand what you're dealing with. So, hey, if the manufacturers make the products to be easily connected to, hey, what you gonna expect? That's the reason why they make it hard for people to be able to fix their own system. Remove the batteries and all that stuff because it's all by design. Planned obsolescence. All right. So another precept would be from the book of Ecclesiastes. Because what they're basically doing when it concerning DNA, they're trying to find out as much as they can about what the Lord has created. That's why they, always like to mix genes, from one animal to the other, and then they create they create a monster, Frankenfish, all this GMO stuff, and then they test it on the people, and then they see the reaction. All right, and that's how you want to see how they could, tweak around with the Most High's creation, and the ultimate goal is to get, to get rid of Israel, the so-called Negroes, the so-called Latinos, and the so-called Native Americans. All right. So, a book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 12 says, "Oh, you know what? Yep, 12 verse 12 says, and further, by these, my son, be admonished of making many books. There is no end, and much study is awareness of the flesh." And there's so much information, encoded into your DNA that by the time you start looking at it, from the genes that code for your cornea, to your fingernails, to your hair, to your spine and all that stuff, to your stem cells, you basically, getting bugged out because there's so much information. All right, that's why the Lord, just want man to be concerned with the simple stuff. Just stick with the law, statutes, and commandments, and stop worrying about the DNA and all that stuff. But Esau wants to go above and beyond. He wants to be like the Most High. All right. So, verse 13 says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High Yahweh Hashem Shai, Hashem Kwakadash, and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." And when man begins to deviate from that, this is the report you get on the news. It becomes another drama, another boogeyman doctrine you see on the news.
Advisory to not only every American, but to hospitals, associations, and clinics. Knowing that BGI is a Chinese company, do we understand where that data is going?
Tens of million Americans getting COVID tests this year. You don't think a lot of them are thinking, boy, where is this data going? What third party is involved in it?
I would proffer no one's thinking that. But this shows the nefarious mindset of the Communist Party of China to take advantage.
Yeah, so it's what you call open market capitalism, and that's what globalization brings about. Everyone that wants to make a quick buck has to find a way to get access to good information, and your DNA has good information. Your chromosomes and all that stuff, they all have vital information. All right. And that's how they're able to map out who Israel is, all right, and all that stuff. And there's so much stuff they can do with it, medication to cure cancers, medications to, to do all type of stuff, for diabetes and all that stuff. They could always create something, all right, when they have access to that information. But hey, Esau has other plans. Okay, and Esau's not working alone. He's working in collusion with Moab. So all that is just a huge distraction. All right, all that foreign government, foreign powers. It's just an excuse. So the main thing you need to be concerned about is Esau. Esau is your number one enemy. According to the scriptures, it tells you when you read the book of Genesis, the third chapter. The seed of the woman versus the seed of the serpent. All right, and it hasn't changed. So the book of Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 3 and 4 tells you, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. Yes, no matter what, no matter the information you do have, Esau always want to find a way to figure out what you know. All right, and he watches these videos, judiciously, and let me also say religiously too. All right. So there's another video here I want you to see as per how a DNA sequencing machine works.
Make a different future. Start different.
Yeah, go daddy.
San Francisco-based IonTorrent is developing a personal genome machine that can read people's DNA. With me is Manish.
And also know a lot of this equipment that we use in the lab. I used to have knowledge about all this stuff once upon a time before the Lord plucked me out of that so-called world of DNA and all that stuff, man. So yeah, this equipment, man, they're made in China, man. And then you see the the device over there behind her.
Jane, a VP with the company. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
So this is a sequencing machine. Can you tell me how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So this machine is very different than anything that's been developed in the past. For one thing, it does not use light. So this is the first time that we're able to sequence DNA.
And this is a machine from 9 years ago. In fact, it should be more than 9 years ago. Okay. So just imagine what type of machines that's available out there for DNA sequencing.
Electronically, just by using basic electronics. So one of the advantages here is we combined consumer electronics, a semiconductor chip shown here, which is on which we sequence DNA, together with the simplest chemistry, which is Watson-Crick base pairing, which is how DNA is copied in our own bodies. The operation is really straightforward. We wanted to have a very simple user interface, so every user could use the technology on screen and very simply. So you start with the DNA sample from a tissue or blood, and you amplify it up, and then you load it onto the chip. So you use a pipette and you load it onto the semiconductor chip. And then this chip is simply inserted to the instrument. So the instrument itself has no moving parts, just a lever here. You put in the chip, it makes an electrical connection, and then you lower this module, and that is to flow the natural nucleotides on the instrument over the surface of the chip, so we can do DNA sequencing in real time. The interface is pretty simple. Once you start the run, you have on-screen menu, which guides you through a setup and graphic interface, so you can.
On that right there, Kim, it's easy information. Don't tell me you can't do that. If they show you how to do it in 30 minutes. So that's how easy it is to sequence someone's DNA. And it's not the first time that DNA has been sequenced. It's been done more than about 30 years ago or so. So another precept will be from the book of Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 4. It says, with thy wisdom and with thine understanding thou hast gotten the riches, and had gotten gold and silver into thy treasure. Yeah, so information, is wealth, and that you can always convert it, to get gold and silver. That's how Esau is. He uses information. He knows the value of information, and with that is able to, have an edge over the people. And verse 5 says, by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. Yep. So that's clear right there, man. And then a quick precept will be from book of Proverbs, chapter 20. I'm going to read verse 5. All right. It says, counsel in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. And that's exactly what Esau's always attempting to do. Always want to get that understanding of how, the DNA works, and it's never stopping, man. He has people walking around the clock around the world, figuring out what the DNA is all about. And hey, he's willing to pay top money for that. That's why you have the NIH. All right, that's why you have the CDC. That's why you have the WHO. All right, that's why you have so many agencies that are willing to pay scientists top dollar to have access to certain types of information regarding the DNA. All right, so another precept will be from the book of Sirach chapter 13 verse 26. It says, a cheerful countenance is a token of a heart that's in prosperity, and the finding out of parables is a wearisome labor of the mind. And that's exactly what the scientists have to go through. Wearisome labor of the mind, because they want to figure out, the riddles of the Lord, in the DNA and all that stuff. So that's exactly what you're going to encounter if you are working one of these labs, you're doing tests and all that stuff. It takes time, and you're always finding out something new. So, hey, why bother yourself with things that are too high for thee, So that's the reason why, the Lord tells man, just live a simple life, man. Keep the commandments and, keep it moving. That's about it, And then final precept will be from the book of Romans, chapter 11. Romans chapter 11, verse 33. It says, oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashim Kwakadash. How unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out. Yeah, so the DNA is one huge source of information. It's a huge reservoir of important information that Esau's always trying to figure out what's in this, what's in that, what does this do and all that stuff. He's always doing a search, the diligent search, trying to figure out the works of the Lord. He checks out the DNA for humans, the DNA for worms, the DNA for tomatoes, DNA for broccoli, asparagus, garlic, and apples, and all that stuff. And it's not just your regular WHO and your health labs that do DNA sequencing. You have your Department of Agriculture. They do that too. So always remember, this technology of DNA sequences is it's a big money bank for Esau. So that's a point that I can, always remember. You can always go out online and do some more research as per DNA sequencing and the type of software they use, the type of devices they use. So let me play this video some more.
Very easily do the runs. And then you can monitor the runs through the iTouch. And that is wonderful because you don't have to be tied to the instrument. You can be out at a cafe and be monitoring how the run goes. And that allows us to do sequencing very simply.
Yep, so that's iTouch right there from Apple. Where do you have your Apple manufacturing plants are? In China. So you can imagine when that type of device, iTouch, iPhone, your Samsungs, they're connected to Wi-Fi. All that information can be uploaded to a network, and that's it. So that's how easy it is to get information, and that information can also be stored on an RFID chip in someone's arm. All right, or they just put a put a RFID chip in the pet and smuggle the pet out of the country. So that's how funny it is. That's how funny it is. To get information that your so-called counterintelligence people are whining about. So that's the drama you got to deal with in those last days. All right, Shalom.